today we're starting a new section and it's on finance. And I'm going to go on record as saying out of the gates, it might not be the best week to sit on your couch, Tosh. I'm just saying this is not probably the sexiest week I've ever done. But I will say I've been so surprised. Obviously, we've worked with a lot of different kind of companies, and not just coffee, but a lot of different kind of companies and a lot of different verticals. I am consistently surprised at how many people running things aren't comfortable looking at their profit loss, aren't comfortable looking at how their finances work, aren't like, it's messy, it's overwhelming, they're not confident in how things are being classed, they're not confident it's done right. And so what the automatic knee jerk of most entrepreneurs or most visionaries is, let's just go sell more stuff, right? Because then they don't have to worry about what they're spending as long as they keep selling. Or if they start getting into a cash crunch, the knee jerk a lot of times can be freeze all spending. Everybody, we're not spending anything else, instead of realizing, no. If you just got comfortable with how your profit and loss is moving, then you can start making strategic decisions. There are times when you need to put a stop on certain kinds of spending, but not probably organization-wide. There are times when you need to adjust your sales strategy. We talked about that in the marketing section about there are times where we need to be thinking about how we're selling and where there are lulls in the sales, how we could boost those lulls back up. But there are two ways to make money. And the two ways to make money is through selling and then being efficient with your cash. Because there are times there's making money and there's saving money, and those both create capital. Those both are what are generating what is considered your net profit. So I'm going to go on record as saying this may come off a little bit nerdy. Those of you who don't like spreadsheets, I'm just going to go out there and say, I'm sorry out of the gate, but I will say this. I'm going to give you some tools like we always do at the beginning of the month, finance tools, things you can plug into your own P&Ls, things you can plug into your own analysis of money. I promise you, there's a better way than every time I'm stressed about money to go out and start making more sales, because that's exhausting. A lot of times that's just like, oh man, like it's like the hamster wheel. You're running your people harder instead of no, like take some ownership. Let's start understanding maybe we need to cut back on going and taking these big, wild, audacious trips every month that are spending thousands and thousands of dollars and making your people have to work harder. You know what I'm saying? Like there are different, maybe I should think about cutting back on a couple of cars that we're financing through the company. Maybe I should think about this next location I'm going into, really understanding how the lease works and how much money we're going to be spending per square foot on this location, regardless of how great of a location it is. Those are things we need to take in consideration, because by saving money, you're making money instead of having just to go out and grow money by more sales. So is that we clear? This is not sexy, but it is essential. And I'm going to try and give you the dumbed down version. I will say this though, as we jump into my sheets and I show you stuff, Ben and Drew had me ramped up into giving you guys like the beefiest lesson in anything yesterday. And I started pulling apart my stuff for presenting today. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to choke out anybody that's nominally interested in this stuff. They're going to be like, tap out, I'm done. So I'm going to enter in slow, but realize this, it's the building block today. As we start at the bottom, I'm going to give you tools so that I'm going to start growing your tools that I give you and growing resources that are available to you. But unless you have the understanding of the basic frameworks, you're going to feel really overwhelmed. And the last thing I ever want to give you are tools that you're like, wah, I'm not even going to use that. But because these are any tool I give you, it's not junk. I'm not going to just give, that's my commitment to you. You'll never get garbage from me. I'm not just gonna be like this. You'll see people in their offer stacks, and they're like, this is worth $250 and this is worth $1,000. And it's like, come on, bro. Like that's an infographic that you pulled off of Google. Like that's not worth $250, but I'm never going to give you junk. Any tool I give you is going to be valuable, but it's only valuable if like you value it, right? One man's treasure, another man garbage, so I'm going to show you how to use it so that it doesn't turn out to be garbage. Is that fair? Nobody's going to fall asleep on me. Tosh, I'm a little bit worried for you. You're on the couch. I've already got a yawn out of you. No. No. Be comfortable. I want you comfortable. Your mom. You've got your mom, babe.
No, it's okay. I should get up. I need another coffee.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm teasing you too bad, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Fine.
Jeez, Aaron, what
I just want to go on record and say if Tasha goes back to the couch, I'm totally fine with that. Okay. So I pulled up a couple of example P&Ls. And these example P&Ls are laid out a couple different ways. But what I'd like to show you is you can look at your P&Ls a couple different ways, but you're always looking for the same numbers. So This one here is just, this is one store, but it's broken out by months. So it's, and this is only through August. And what it is it's all the same. So this is your, what they call your chart of accounts. This is your income. This is your cost of goods. That's what they would call above the line, right? Because anything gross profit, this is considered above the line. And then I just call this south of the line. South of the line is anything below gross profit, and it's all of your expenses. So that's a traditional profit and loss, is how you're making your money, what goes into making your money, like what, you know, what were the materials you used to sell this to make money off of it? And then what are the expenses after you've determined this is what we've grossed, this is what we've made total, after we've taken out the cost of goods. And then these are all the expenses that are just normal everyday expenses in a business. And those line items in every chart of account can be a little bit different. So this is one way to look at a profit and loss. Another way to look at a profit and loss is if you have multiple locations. This is a profit and loss by class when you've assigned out different stores to the same month. So this is 1 month, January 2020, but these are all your stores stacked up next to each other so you can see how stores perform. So there's 2 different ways you can do it. Either you can do it 1 store at a time, and that is multiple months through the year, or you can do it profit and loss by class if your QuickBooks is set up to do it this way, or your accounting software where you're stacking store next to store for 1 given month, and then the next month you're looking at those same store over stores. Does that make sense? But we're looking at, and I've color coded it so you can keep track of it. The 3 numbers I think that you should be most concerned about are COGS, which is cost of goods sold, wages or payroll, depending on how you consider what you call your payroll in your chart of accounts, and then total expenses. Those are the 3 I think are the most key numbers to get comfortable with. And I'm going to tell you why here in a minute. So let's go back to this one because I think it's a little bit visually more easy to follow, and then I'll take it into the next one as well. And then just so you know, this isn't just spreadsheets for the sake of spreadsheets. I'm going to tell you why you want to know these things and where that can go. And I'm going to help you ramp up into what we're going to look at next downstream over the course of Coffee Expert. So let's look at COGS. So cost of goods sold is what it takes, the materials it takes to make money in your income. You know, so anything that is above the line, COGS, materials that it takes to make money on these items. So obviously there are ways that you can look at making money, and we're going to talk about that over the course of time. We're going to talk about your menu. We're going to talk about what you're charging for your menu, what goes into your menu, how you're determining your cost for your prices for different drinks, different things like that. But we're not talking about that today. Today, we're going to talk about COGS, and that's cost of goods sold. So typically in any coffee shop, any place you're working with, it breaks out pretty similar. And that is, you're probably getting your baked goods from somewhere, you're getting your beans, you're getting your dry goods. This would be any merchandise you're selling in the store that's your proprietary merchandise, or if you're selling other like flasks, things that aren't yours. Milk. This would be a line item typically for energy drinks, is what you see a lot of that. And then any shipping that you're paying. Those are all materials it takes to be able to make money on these items here. So then when you're reviewing a profit and loss, what you're looking for is anomalies. So what you're looking for is, I would always grab 1 line at a time and work left to right and see what you see by way of average. Now, typically I would always say this number is always going to be an average of total. This is your total column. So this is like what an average of these numbers all here should be. Each one of these, as you total them up, should produce an average. And I guess we're going to see, yeah, an average of 4%, which is what this one reflects. So this is, if somebody says, so what are your baked goods? What are you paying on average for baked goods? About 4% of your gross is what you're paying, your total income. So about 4% of your total income is being spent on baked goods. Now that's your average, but you know, like some of these stores here, they obviously weren't doing much with baked goods. Maybe they just picked up baked goods this year. And so they only started feeling it here. And then we start seeing this new number here of 6%. So if you only want to hold these 4 numbers, because these ones, or maybe this one, because these ones don't really work, the average should really be 6, because those zeros don't really count. But because you're taking a whole, you know, first 8 months of the year, that's why that average is different. So what I'm looking for here though is spending hikes, because also realize this 6% here is this line item held against your total income. That's how you determine your percentages. So if I start making more money and I don't need necessarily that much more baked goods, this number might drop. So what you want to kind of be looking for is not only at the percentages, but also you can want to be looking at how much is being spent consistently, and then ask yourself, is that in line with what I'm making total? I wouldn't necessarily say you have to hold it against baked goods. That's a little bit too granular. But what you can say is if 6% of 83,000 is this, it doesn't always work out exactly this clean where it's always 6%. Sometimes you're going to see wild variance. So I would say when I'm reviewing, so in reviewing profit loss, I do this every month. I do it every month for companies. If you're confused on how your profit loss works, if you want me to do any kind of analysis, Collab Team does that. That's fine. But I'm going to walk you through what we do so you can do it yourself too if you want. So what I'll always do is I'll take one line at a time and I'll look for anomalies. Now, for me personally, I prefer looking at it by store over store, because what I'm looking for is the ability to coach my people, right? It's not just for the sake of me identifying where we're spending too much. That's part of it. But I think it's also how I can coach my people to not spend too much, because a lot of times it's not like I'm doing the ordering. It's not even like the owner of the business is doing the ordering. It's the managers at each location typically that are handling their ordering. And a lot of times they're ordering based upon their personality type. Let me give you an example. There are some people who are procrastinators. They wait until the last minute to order, right? And so everything they do is last minute. They're like, oh my gosh, my order's due today. They look over on their shelf and they type in a number, right? Well, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. And what you can find is big waves of drops, right? Like people that way over order some months and then way under order the next month because they've got too much stock from last over order. And then next month they're up, and then the next month they're down. And you say, Aaron, what does it matter if there's swells? Well, that matters a lot when it comes to your bottom line. And if it's a tight month and your cash is locked up in too much inventory in one of your stores, because that you want liquidity, you want cash, you want all your stores traveling at a good efficiency amount where your top line is being justified by the right amount of COGS. Otherwise, your dollars are locked up in inventory in one of your locations, which you don't want your money locked up anywhere. So you want to beat down the swells. The other side of it is there are personalities that are the preppers, right? They're the ones that are like, I never want to run out of nothing ever, right? And so then it's like they over order on everything. And it's like, wait a minute, why are they traveling so deep on their dry goods? A lot of times you'll see this in dry goods. Their gross doesn't justify, or their total income doesn't justify this in their dry goods. And so equally, you don't want like a store that you've got a manager that never wants to run out. They're oftentimes the ones that other managers are stealing from, right? The guy that's always running out of stuff. They know they can rely on Jane, who always over orders, and it creates this unhealthy movement in your company. Now, obviously, you don't want people to run out of stuff. That's the key. But at the same time, there's a balance. You don't want them to over order either. So what I like about when you shake down a COGS or a profit and loss statement by class, and you've classed your stores independently, is I can hold them against each other and determine if the numbers make sense. Like, do the numbers make sense? I can grab the energy drink line here for the month of January. I can give a quick glance. So this one is categorized. I categorize this particular company by size of store. So the lighter gray are drive-throughs. The medium gray was their cafes. And then the dark gray is their large cafes. So for me, the reason I did that was so that I could grab energy and I could pull it across. And what I'm looking at right now is percentages: 2%, 2%, 2%, 3%, 2%. I'll look that way first across the board. And typically I'll try and stay like stores with like stores. So 2%, 2%, 3%. I'll skip, 3%, skip, 1%, or sorry, 2%. And it's not even hitting the radar because it's so low, and 2%. So energy drinks, we had created an energy drink for this company, so their energy drink cost was super low. I usually wasn't that concerned about it because I was in control of that. I ordered it. I knew what it was coming in. I wasn't that worried about it. And we had also controlled the delivery cost. Now, before we did this, this number was all over the place because it trended a lot like dry goods. And we're going to look at dry goods here in a minute, and you're going to see what I'm talking about the swells and things being all over the place. But energy drink was a pretty dependable number. I didn't worry that much about it because I was in control of it. But if you're not in control of your energy drinks, or you're ordering it from somebody else, or it can whip out of control, and you want to keep an eye. Red Bull, we still were using some Red Bull to offset. We'd only created one SKU, which was the sugared item, not the sugar-free. So we still ordered sugar-free. So I would give it a quick glance over. So 4%, 4%, 3%, okay, 8%, that's a standout, or 0.8%. I continue looking across, 5%, 6%, 6%, 5%. There's another 7%, 8%. So what I would do is I would look at these and I would say, okay, so if this store had a $40,000 income, and I would come back here and I would compare it to another one where this one here, I would ask myself, okay, so if this store is spending, it made $66,000, why is it so close in what they're spending on Red Bull? Like I would start analyzing. Now these are small numbers. I'm not suggesting you chisel every $100 variance. I mean, that's not worth your time. But what I would say is, as you get down here lower, once again, pastries is pretty low ticket. You know, we're starting to get up and over the 1%, which, you know, it represents, you know, a good amount of money of your money, but not a ton of it. This is the one that I'll always watch because dry goods, it's a big spender. I mean, let's slide over here to the end. So in 1 month, this particular coffee company spent $193,000 on the dry goods. Like we need to make, oh, that's a what?
Big chunk of change.
Big chunk of change. I mean, that's a lot of cash. So we want to make sure that their line items are lining up. And you're going to see a lot of variance in percentage. So let's look at this together real quick. So 18%, 22%, 18%. Trying to get my camera out of the way. 20%. So now let's look at, okay, so that's a lot of variance. Why is this guy at 20%, store number 7? They spent $83,000, or they made $83,000 off $17,000 in dry goods. So now I'll look at another store that was near that mark of that 83,000. So let's say here. So there was only a $500 differential in that number here. So in my mind, it's like, okay, so if these guys can do this much off of this, why does it take this company, this store over here at $500 less? You know, I started identifying where the anomalies at. Like, who should I be coming down on? And so if I determine, let's say this one becomes the example, 22% I say is that's too high. It's too much of your total income to be going into your COGS. Then I'll start looking at that store to be a consistent offender. So store number 2, let's see how they did the next month. Dry goods. So notice here, they drop down below. That's because these guys are a sweller. These ones are ones that buy a lot and then drop down the next month. So they drop down below what the average COGS is for dry goods. So that's one of the ones where I'll begin to work with this store on how they're doing their ordering. And as you go on, you'll see, you really start noticing trends as swells, and you really start understanding what kind of managers you are. And that's where you can task down as an owner, as a leader, to your regional, or as a regional down to your managers of, hey, so I've been noticing you've been experiencing some swells and how you're doing your ordering. Will you tell me how you're doing your ordering? And then walking them through what their process is. And usually when you shine the light on somebody, they don't like it, you know, but at the same time, they'll acknowledge it. Depending on the kind of personality they have, they'll usually humble up pretty quick on, you got me. Like I handed it off to my assistant. I wait till the last minute. And then you can begin to really drill down on it. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. So dry goods is always something I keep an eye on. Milk can also be, depending on if you've negotiated good rates. Coffee beans, I don't spend a lot of time on if you do your own roasting. If you don't do your own roasting, though, I would suggest you keep an eye on your coffee beans, because that's something you're paying somebody else for. This right here, sometimes these costs can get inflated. Sometimes your system isn't perfect. This particular coffee company, our delivery wasn't perfect. The way we did it with bins, it was a hard science to get down to a hard, fast number on, so I didn't get too crazy with. But I would say of all cost of goods, the two that I would keep the most fierce eye on is dry goods, and then also depending on how you're handling your energy, because that's probably the 2 line items that are the biggest. Let's look at this one real quick, because I would vary to guess that that's the true of this one. So this one is dry goods, obviously a huge line item. And then energy drink. Okay, so this place isn't spending that much on energy for them. There's their second line item, coffee beans. but they also do a lot of baked goods. Now, this is something else to say. Not everybody does a ton with baked goods. Some stores, like, they don't do much baked goods at all. So I'd say identify in your COGS, what are your 3 top line items, and then look at it for anomalies. Watch for it for anomalies. If you're breaking down by store, month over month here, maybe your anomaly is in how they're doing their ordering month over month. But then you can also look to compare it to a like size store. Look at other stores that are about this size, go by your total column. Maybe this is a $600,000 store by mid-year. What are your other $600,000 stores, and how are they performing once you identify anomalies? But then once you've identified the anomalies, the trick is how you're coaching them on how they order. Ben, do you have other thoughts? This is more your side of things, and then Drew, I'm going to lean into you for the next line item.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, dry goods, anything that realistically is going to be in your manager's hands, your manager's control. Like at this stage, on this level of it, you're just noticing and trying to watch and see and predict and identify what's happening. But ultimately, this is all in the hands of your manager. So it's going to require you to be able to not only identify, but also with some sort of tact, like you said, coach, because if you go and just, piss your manager off because you're doing a crappy job, look at these numbers, what are you going to do about it? You need to fix this. That's not going to help them. You're not going to fix the problem. You're just going to continue a poor line item for the next few months until you get sick of your manager, you fire them, and you hope somebody else does a better job, but they probably won't be able to because you never talked to the first manager in the first place. So, I mean, it's all going to come down to the manager's hands, and your job is to be able to mold that manager and teach the manager as best as you can to get the result that you're looking for in this report.
Yeah. And I would say, like, downstream, just so you guys have some projection of where we're going with Coffee Experts, Ben created an amazing tool that helps you control how you're doing your dry good ordering, and it shows you how to predict, it shows you how to hold inventory, and even if it's not I would say no tool is perfect and is going to work for everybody, but what it does bring is awareness to how I'm doing my ordering, awareness to how much inventory you expect me to have on hand. Like, some of those things are just never communicated, and then you leave it to the discretion of whoever is driving, making the orders. And I think that establishing standards, hey, we would like you to have this much on hand at all times, realizing we're going to have this much back stock at a warehouse to offset your load. Don't ever worry about it. We're not going to let you run out, but we don't want you sitting on too much inventory inside the stands. Not only do you not have the space for it, but you're locking up our capital for us to be able to use for other things. I'd say also, Ben, do you want to talk just real quick on negotiating with vendors? Because I think that that's another way to control it. Once you've identified, hey, I'm helping Jane out with the way she's doing her ordering, the second thing you can do is, the second control is negotiating with your vendors. So Ben, you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. And don't let me steal all your thunder for next week. You're talking on COGS next week. So only give them a little bit, just give them an intro.
So your spending power becomes huge with your vendors, especially once you get up above 1 or 2, maybe 3 locations. Never underestimate how much your vendor enjoys getting a paycheck from you, and use that to your advantage, and use that as bargaining power with your vendors, and say, hey, I've noticed there's these other distribution companies, they're actually selling their Tarani syrups at like 13 cents cheaper than you are. Is there any way that, we love working with you guys. Is there any way you can cut me some sort of deal?
Yep.
Or in the previous company I worked for, we actually had, our managers were doing cash and carry runs for the longest time. And we were like, at some point we need to get rid of this because our distributor didn't carry what we were getting from cash and carry. So me and the vendor sat down, we actually worked through a list of all the things we were having our managers go drive and get. We were like, okay, can you get these things, or do you have some sort of off brand that's similar to these things? And lo and behold, our vendor has all of these extra items that maybe weren't the exact things that we were normally buying, but it was a nice off brand, and it saved us paying wages for managers to go basically grocery shopping every week.
Yep.
So it saved a whole lot of payroll there. It saved paying a retail price when we could get a wholesale item instead. So there's nothing wrong with sitting down with your vendors, especially your dry good vendors. That's the first one I would recommend sitting down with, because you're buying the majority of your items from a dry goods vendor, and just saying, hey, let's have a conversation about what I see going on with other distributors. Really like you guys, the one thing about distributors is you have to stroke their ego quite a bit. You know, they think they're really important guys. They say, hey, you're really important to me and I never want to leave your guys' company. What can we do to sort of help me out and help you at the same time? And most of them will find a way to scrape off a few pennies. And if looking at that total on the other company, if just by scraping a few pennies off of a few line items, that can save you thousands a year just by scraping a few here or there. And all of a sudden you've saved a whole chunk of change. So it's super important to do that.
It's good. And I would say too, Ben, I know we talked our vendors into doing things they never did before. You know what I mean? Like, hey, will you store for us all of our proprietary energy drink? We didn't have storage for it. Will you hold on to that for us and bring it to us at incremental amounts? And sure, charge us a delivery amount.
Yep.
We asked them to start helping us with our cups. Hey, will you take on just ordering all the cups for us so we don't have to do that? Like, go back and forth with the people that you really enjoy working with, because likely they don't want to lose you. So they're willing to do things that might not be directly in their business model for the sake of keeping you. So remember, you're the customer. Don't be a dick. You know what I mean? But like at the same time, be like ask for what you need. They're there to serve you. That's why they're in business. As much as you're in business to serve coffee to your customers, these people are in business to serve you. So make sure you're asking for what you need, and then make sure everybody gets lazy, right? Everybody gets a little fat. Like, as far as everybody is like, they're probably charging you too much, and you need to consistently make sure you're challenging them by getting price checks. It doesn't hurt anybody for you to get apples for apples price checks to keep everybody's pencil sharp, to keep everybody honest, keep everybody above board. So I'd encourage you to be looking at that. So that's COGS. And we're going to go into a deeper look into COGS next week. I would definitely say the biggest line items I would think that you can save on are energy drink, your coffee beans if you're not roasting, dry goods, and then milk. We found some huge savings in milk early on with roasters for the sake of like just changing vendors and just find somebody that can meet our needs a little better. So the next thing I want to talk about real quick is the second line item is wages. So wages is something that is the make it or break it for your business. Once again, you have all different kinds. You have some people that are going to schedule too deep. You have some other people that schedule too thin. And it's important to get to an average of what you think that your labor should be. So for this company, it's really nice for this. This just shows it a little bit better. For anytime you're doing wages, I'll always include the payroll tax, just so I have a complete number when I pull this percentage. So this is a combination of those two lines divided by, once again, your total income number up above. So now we're what they would consider below the line, south of the line, however you want to term that. So it's no longer within your COGS. Now this is in your expenses, but this is still something that your managers can control, and it's how much they're spending on labor. So add in your taxes into that. And then if you slide it all the way right, you can start seeing what an average would be. So their average here, oh, and this is a 2-pay, so that might not be the best example. Let's look at this one. So wages here, average is 26%. That's a little bit high. We like to see people between 18 and 21% is where we'd like to see you live. So as I go through here and I look at it, I start asking myself, okay, 24, that's high, that's high. This person's doing okay, 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 okay. 23, that's high. 24, that's high. 22, on the cusps. And that begins to help me identify, okay, who do I need to go and look at scheduling for? Now, some of these, it may just be that they're not making as much. So I would always ask myself, okay, was it a low month? Because what I found a lot of times is they weren't keeping an accurate eye on their scheduling. Their gross sales dropped, right? Their total income dropped, but they just stayed static in their scheduling without realizing, oh, wait a minute, do I still need an extra runner for those extra couple of hours? Should I be sending somebody home? Because I do think that you have to feather that thing. You can't just fall asleep at the wheel. And so that's something I would always encourage people about when it comes to their labor is, okay, go help that person with their scheduling. Let's talk about why these two stores are almost identical, 70 and 76. And you should see a pretty good continuity of what labor is between them. But other ones, let's see if we can find an anomaly in this. So 70 and 76, let's look for another drive-through. Okay, let's see what this one is. So 12 versus, okay, so what's going on here? So these guys are both at 15. This guy was able to drop his down to 12. That's $3,000 less. And he only grossed, $5,000 less. So like beginning to identify how can we make our people the leanest they can possibly be. Drew, do you want to talk about labor for a minute?
Sure. Yeah. One of the first things you want to do is make sure that you have a standardized system for paying your people what they get paid.
Yeah.
Instead of arbitrarily deciding, because then you'll have a lot of catching up to do downstream. Something that I try to do is schedule obviously my more tenured barista who get paid more during the busier times. It balances out, and they're obviously the better ones most of the time anyways. What I did notice was the slower stores, like you said, usually do have a higher labor rate. So going in and coaching the manager on when to cut, even 15 minutes here and there, you can cut so much time off your schedule. It stacks up really fast. And you can get down, if you have the right tools, and generally your POS can get pretty specific. Get down into the transaction time, so you can really drill down on what times of the day you need to bring people in. But the more tools you give your managers surrounding exactly when the transactions happen, when the customers are going to start coming, the better your labor rate's going to be, because they learn as they fail into the 24-25%ers. They learn fast to keep an eye on their metrics.
100%. I think, Drew, that's a really good point. As far as you're looking at these numbers, you need to ask yourself, especially, and we learned this the hard way, if one of your managers is making a lot more than any of your other managers, and you're still allowing them to bill hourly versus salary, then you're going to see your number climb here, just pure math. You're just paying that guy more dollars for the same kind of hours. So you need to ask yourself, do I need to create standards of what like stores should be at? And I would say we came to a spot where we started paying some of the larger stores a higher, obviously a manager that's handling $1 million plus store, $1.5 million store, a $2 million store deserves probably to be making more than a manager that's managing a $500,000 store. I mean, the stress, the amount of staff, all the things the ordering, the pure volume that they've got to justify to get to that kind of a car account is going to require you to consider paying them more. But then it's just make sure you're comparing like stores to like stores. Like obviously a lesser grossing store and a lesser payroll store is going to look different than a high volume store. So that's why I color coded things so that I could keep an eye on like stores to make sure that they were running in parallel with like stores. So that's what I would say to wages. And we're going to look at that a little bit more downstream. So I'm not going to.
We also had managers for a while struggle with how do I know how my store is doing? How do I gauge the success of my store? So as we did develop these tools, just to bring clarity and to teach them, they improved a lot. But if they don't have the tools, they have no idea how they're doing.
Yeah, giving them. Yeah, and I'm going to show you what the tool is that we use to help. Ben, did you have something you want to add?
Nope, just totally agreeing.
Good, totally agreeing. That's what I love to hear. Okay, so the final number that I think that you're going to want to look at is just your total expense. So total expense is a hard number because there's a lot of things loaded in your chart of accounts that your managers don't have control over. Like they're probably not going to be able to control their CAM charges, like their common area maintenance, like they may not even be able to, affect your travel and entertainment. Some owners get crazy with travel and entertainment. They tuck it in their stores, and that's not something they can control. But it is a good number for you to be able to track and determine, okay, what are my total expenses? Because it's my total expenses is what finally shakes down to my net ordinary income. And if there's anything south of the line of that, it's going to affect it down here. And then that's what is generating what your profitability is. And your profitability is just your net income held up over your total income up here. So what am I netting at the end of the day, and how profitable am I? And that's here. Some stores, like building loan, isn't going to turn up on your P&L. That's something that's held on your asset sheet. And so you're going to want to drop that in sometimes if you want what's my true net? But I mean, this is a great profitability. They're doing great with their profitability. Let's see on this company here. They had similar things too, where he wanted us to take out taxes for the sake of getting to a true net. So the true net on this guy, on this particular month, February was always lean, so it's low, 4%, 3%. That's not great. But if you notice up here, this was the true net that we were looking at on the other locations. So 11%, I would say you always want to live somewhere between 10% and 20%. I'd say that that's a real safe space to live. And they're not always going to be able to control, like I said, what goes into your chart of accounts as managers. So we ended up creating this tool for roasters called the efficiencies. And what the efficiencies was we pulled out line items that they couldn't really control. Well, I would shake it down this way, and then I'd actually make one more report that they were able to take to their managers. But what I would do is I would give them coaching. So this is COGS, right? And I would ask that, I'd ask the accountant, hey, let's make sure this number is right. I had this question about this, but then I would start coaching the regionals. Hey, Stephen, same with Edison as Pasco, low order in December caused a larger order this month, coaching opportunity. And it just gave me an opportunity to then hand something to my regionals or hand something to my manager and say, hey, I've noticed some anomalies. Can you take a look at this for me? And so this was a regional. He went out and dealt with it that way. Same thing here. Pasco was low last month. That's why they're high this month, coaching moment. Or let's say, let's see if I can find a good labor number. No, same thing as noted before. Let's see if I can grab a labor coaching opportunity. Here. Stephen, this is too high. Look at 395, who finished with 6,000 higher in gross sales. So just giving them an opportunity to coach when it came to having those tools. So all that to say, I'm going to drop in some tools. You're going to see it in the membership area. It's just a standard P&L that's broken out this way. Your cost of goods is going to look different. Like your chart of accounts is going to look different. So if you can just, the reason I dropped this in is so you can see what we did so that you can replicate it in yours. What your accountant provides you doesn't look like this. You're going to have to do some manipulation. If you ask them to drop in percentages, they can drop in percentages for you. I usually will drop in my own percentages though, because I don't want to see all the percentages. I want to see COGS percentages. That's what's going to help me. Otherwise, your P&L can come back with so many numbers on it. It's just overwhelming to needle down on. So I typically will drop in my own percentages. So I just give you what my equations are of how we drop those in. And then this shows you COGS, shows you your payroll, and I show you what I'm doing here with adding those two together and dividing it by total income. And then your expenses. But so let me show you what I was going to show you. Where Ben and Drew are like, you should show them this. And I'm like, I think we're going to change what we do. Eventually, this all shakes down to one master tool or one master summary page, where you're able to say, okay, in let's say Q1, so January, this was my COGS. How does that compare to last year in January? And how does that compare to the year before that in January? And same thing with payroll. This is my January payroll. How does that hold up to 2020's payroll or 2019's payroll? And the nice thing about that is that, and this is all part of the tool we'll give you guys, is that you're able to create from this efficiency standards. So Q1, 2021, this is the percentage. I'll show you. This is what it looks like. So for cost of goods Q1, we over 3 years determined this is the average of where people should be living on their COGS, because we've got 3 years of data store over store to show you this is the magic. And the beauty of that is that you've created a spot test now to drop in on any store to ask yourself, hey, why is this store so out of a line? They should be at 37% as a drive-through. They should be at 38% as a cafe. Same things as you slide down here. They should be at 20% in Q1, because quarters will vary, right? Some quarters you're leaner, some quarters you're fatter. And so your numbers might vary quarter to quarter. It's nice to create a master sheet where you have the ability to shake down all those numbers. So there's obviously a lot of data entry in this. Collab Team does that for people. If you just want somebody to build yours out, we can do that for you. But if you want to put in your own data, it's obviously something you're able to do, and all of it's there. So that is everything that I wanted to talk through by way of tools today. Drew and Ben, do you have anything else that you would like to add? And then we'll just open it up for go to Slido and ask and answer questions.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, as not sexy as it is, according to Aaron, this really is, being aware of this is not the easiest way, but the best way to find hidden money, to find hidden income, especially I would say in those December, January, February months where either you, if you're the owner, or your owner is pulling their hair out going, there's no sales, it's dead out there, there's snow on the ground, we haven't seen a customer in 3 hours. And so we go, okay, how can we find some hidden income then? Let's start pulling apart our numbers and realize that our cost of goods is at 43%. It's January, but for some reason I have 2 managers who keep ordering 10 boxes of 32-ounce ice cold cups a week. Like that's where your hidden income is. And you're only going to find that if you do a little bit of digging into these P&Ls and into these cog sheets.
Yeah, it's good.
I'd also say consistency in coaching. The more consistent you are up front, the less you have to do it in the long run.
Yeah. Being consistent in the messaging, being consistent in what you want from them even, right? Like it's like,
you got to be annoying.
and the worst thing you can do is change, right? The worst thing you can do is be all over the place in how you're coaching somebody, because people are like, what do you want me to, am I pulling this stick? Am I turning the wheel? Like, have you ever, I've got kids who don't know how to drive. Like, you got to be really careful how you're coaching people, because like some of my kids ended up on the wrong side of the road. Some of my kids ended up running stop signs. Like, I mean, but a lot of it is in how you're coaching. And I would say, typically you're hiring people that want to make you happy. Like, right, they don't want to be doing wrong by you, unless they're stealing or unless they're doing things problem. And then I would say be slow to hire, quick to fire is the EOS way, right? Like, make sure you're bringing in the right people, but if you've identified this person is not working, don't keep them on too long, because man, a bad apple makes the whole lot rotten. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it works. But I would say typically your people want you to be happy. So give them the tools and be consistent. And you don't have to go in there screaming, yelling, waving your hands. Like, come in there and give them consistent support, consistent reinforcement. Don't let them slide, but at the same time, consistently be teaching them the same things and watch them grow. They want to grow. So I will say, not only is it cool things like this where you can start to identify what your efficiency numbers are, because I think that's cool. But I think also another thing we're going to roll out a little bit later is your sales and reach goals, where you're holding store over store and seeing exactly how you want them to perform, so that you can literally begin to predict how much money you're going to make. Once you dial in what your expenses are, your COGS, your payroll, you get to consistent numbers, you can then begin to ratchet it the other way and give people targets they're shooting for. And you can know from year beginning what you're probably going to end the year at if you can stick to your sales and reach goals. And we'll go over that at a different point in time. So as non-sexy as it is, they really are the controls for you making more money and for you to be able to grow. How many stores can I open this year? I don't know. Well, no, we can know. Like, how have we been doing on our COGS and our payroll and our expenses? How are we doing on our sales and our reach? And then you're going to be able to predict how much money you should be able to cushion, and then how much you're sitting on in reserves to be able to take a brave step. So I think that's the long and short of it.